Have you ever heard "Don't argue with a crazy person"? Well, that's me. Right now, my medicines are working, but I generally run pretty manic, just very high energy, super optimistic unless I get frustrated, and then I'll snap off into a temper. People that don't understand that, I can understand that I would be very frustrating. There is information to learn about that, to learn techniques and how to deal with it. But like with a friend of mine that has it, you just don't argue with the crazy person. Their brain is different. The chemicals are different. So I guess the story I'm going to relay is I was living in an apartment. It was public, not public housing, but subsidized housing, and Jackson Ward Association was getting the rent from the government. And my sister had taken my kids on Christmas, so all day Christmas I didn't have any family or my children, and my friends were out of town because of course they're at home with their families. So I had old carpet. It was like probably 10 years old, too old, and I painted it all up and I hung it on my walls because I was pretty upset and I needed a project. So that went into me going to court and saying, well, the carpet was old. It was old carpet. Probably shouldn't have been there anyway. And so they didn't, but they evicted me because my daughter moved out and I couldn't find a roommate. But they might would have evicted me anyway after I did the carpet thing. They can evict you for anything. It's wrong. So I didn't have a car, but I got it in my mind that I was getting evicted. I mean, I was going to have to leave, and I hadn't really thought through it completely, but it's going by the seat of my pants, so to speak. So I decided to go to the Gates Foundation in Seattle because I'm a great admirer of their work. And if I build World Preschool, I think they might enjoy helping out with it. So my friend Greg at Paradise Garage got me a van. I gave him a painting. He only charged me. I only paid $100 on that van. And I drove it at first. I mean, just the freedom of being able to drive. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I drove up to Connecticut. I drove to Maine. I went in the LL Bean. And I sat down and I had a rest. And I sat there for about a half hour. And a lady came over and she said, would you like a glass of water? And she said, this would be a more comfortable couch for you to rest on. So LL Bean let a homeless, mentally ill person rest on their couch. So I like them. They're cool. They're cool. Much better than my sister. But I think, might have been before that. Was I in Connecticut? I don't know. And I said, where's a really nice place to go? Like, where's the ritzy, like the money area? And they said, well, it's go 4 blocks down there and I was at the yacht club. And so I went over and I started talking to people, and I went in and I was like, I think I want a dinghy. I've always wanted to ride in a dinghy ever since I read the books of Misty of Chincoteague and stuff. And the ambulance came and took me to the hospital. They wanted to check me out. I was like, fuck. I'm manic, but I'm not a danger to myself or others. And so they let me go. I stayed there about an hour or so, and the dogs were with me in the hospital. I said, no, the dogs have to come. They're my service dogs. And so we answered some questions, and then I stopped by the convenience store to get gas, and this lawyer came over to me, and we were talking. I said, are you single? And I stopped, dropped, and rolled. He was so hot. And he goes, I think you need to go in the hospital. So I got back on. I didn't know you could take a ferry across the Finger Lakes. So I had to go all the way back down and around. And I was going to stop and see my friend Joe in Montana. I haven't seen him in 10 years. And we were on swim team together and used to play as children. He's got a couple of my paintings. He's always believed in me. And so I stopped in Virginia City. Beautiful little tourist town. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I went and I saw the town of Ennis. And I didn't pay the money to see the presidents. I was tight on money. And so was Joe, apparently. He worked the whole time I was there. If he wasn't working, he was doing drugs and drinking. So that's where we are with that. I think he's bipolar. But I went to Ennis and I got Greg a t-shirt. Said Ennis, because I didn't know, but that's where they filmed one of my favorite movies, Brokeback Mountain. And so then I had it, Joe gave me $200 because I was out of money until my check came. I was doing a little texting on the interstate, Officer Bowers. Yeah, I mean, it's a long stretch of road in the middle of the night. And I don't know, I shouldn't have been doing that. That was bad, very bad. But I just did it in the, where there were no car, because you'd be on the interstate and not seeing any car for miles and miles and miles. But, so I did make it to Seattle. It didn't look as pretty as I thought, but I only went straight to the Gates Center. And of course I had my purple dogs. We went in the exhibition area, and on their sign-in book, I think I just defined the plan I wanted to do to get people on board with the idea. And I don't know that I think so differently, but some people think I do, I guess. I don't know. I think it's a matter of some education, some experience. Experience in life has taught me a lot. And I'm still living. And then I walked around it, and I walked all the way around the Gates Center, and the backside, it needs some landscaping, Peter Cully. You need to landscape and make a little park for them. I thought, anyway. And then I went in there, and they said, we don't let dogs come in here. And I don't know, I think I gave them a postcard or something. And what was really fun is I walked out, and I was looking for my car, because I always lose my car. And I think his name was Matt. He came out, and he said, ma'am, you forgot your phone. I was like, oh, I always do that. And he helped me look for my car. It was really sweet. So I started driving cross country again. I would have gone down through San Diego if I'd had more money and gone back that route. But being that I was short on money, I said I better get back. And I didn't know where I was going to live yet. I didn't know. And when you're moment to moment like that and very manic, you're not really planning. You can't plan stuff like that, which is kind of good serendipity, but on the other hand, it can leave you homeless on the street. And so I went through, I was in the cornfields, and I asked a farmer, I said, did you know Roundup's bad? He said, I didn't know that. So that's where we are there. All the corn in the Midwest has Roundup on it. Hello. And plastics biodegrade, and some of them are very dangerous. Hello. That's our children's water that you're pouring this into. If you don't care about yourself, and I can't remember the Greek word for love of self. I'm going to work on that. But engineers have to be ethical. How can you have people making everything that have no ethics? They don't even know what it is. And then they think Ayn Rand, she was communist. She sold a pretty package of how happy your life would be when you had the most of everything you could ever want, which is money. Love is actually eudaimonia is the correct term. But anyway, so I got in Kern, Nebraska, and my car broke down, and I was sitting on the side of the road, my van, and we're all sitting there, and I have no money. And I think I'd already stopped at another town, and two people, one lady at this like woman's shelter, she gave me $20 out of her own pocket, and I've got her address to send it back. And then another guy had an animal shelter, and he said, well, he goes, this sounds different than somebody just begging for money. It sounds like you really have, plan. And so he gave me $100 of gift cards that somebody donated to the shelter, and I want to give him a painting for that shelter. But, so the lights just, boop, 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 boop. I was like, oh shit, stop. So the police come, I call the police, and he says, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't have any money. I'm out of money. And so it took about an hour, and he looked up online and said, you have a shoplifting charge. And I was like, I thought Russell took care of that. Russell Aubrey Bowles, I sent you that message. But anyway, he never got back to me, so I should have listened to that fact. I didn't. It was an apple fritter. The lady's kicking me out with my service dog, and so I didn't steal it. I threw it on the floor. It's crazy. Anyway, so the Salvation Army said they'd put me up in a room in a hotel for a night. So they took me to this really nice hotel, and we spent the night and had breakfast in the morning, and then I talked to the shelter, and they sent two married guys that their families were in the shelter, came to pick me up in the truck. They let the homeless people drive their cars. It's amazing. I mean, come on, people, let's be nicer to our homeless. And so they pick me up and we ride around. They're just enjoying driving a little bit. And they said, well, what are you going to do with your dogs? I said, I don't know. He said, well, we'll take you back to the hotel. You better call the police and see what to do. I said, okay. And I was having panic attacks. And in my mind, I'd released him from my custody. I had to adjust in my mind losing, because that very, very much could happen. They could have put him in and adopted him out. And I've had her 14 years. She wouldn't do well. I don't think she'd live very long, to be honest. But I'll be okay. So the police come and they see me and we talk. And they called the animal shelter and they said, can you hold the dogs for a few days until she gets herself together? And they said they would. So they took me to a really nice shelter. We cooked our own food. We had our own bedrooms. Families had a bedroom. And then one woman and her husband got in a really bad fight. So they shipped her out to the women's shelter to separate them, her and the kids. But they let you come and go. There was a thrift store next door. They helped you find jobs. I think Virginia and Richmond should do that for people that want to get a place to live and stuff like that.